Yeah, but I thought when I saw you before, you said that your people could change like your whole body.
I can still die. If I'm killed before regeneration, then I'm dead. Even then, even if I change, it feels like dying. Everything I am dies. Some new man goes sauntering away. And I'm dead.
What?
I demand orders! They're never gonna come! Your race is dead! You all burn, all of you. 10 million ships on fire. The entire Dalek race wiped out in 1 second. You lie! I watched it happen. I made it happen! You destroyed us! I had no choice. And what of that time, Lords? Dead. They burnt with you. The end of the last great time war. Everyone lost.
We've still got to fix you two. Because the meta-crisis might have slowed down, but that thing is wrapped around your cortex.
Yes, we know.
We know everything. Thanks.
And you know nothing. It's a shame you're not a woman anymore. Because she'd have understood.
We've got all that power, but there is a way to get rid of it. Something a male-presenting Time Lord will never understand.
Doctor Who is back with David Tennant, and I had hope. Right up until Twitter started posting clips.
Yes, we know.
We know everything. Thanks.
And you know nothing.
That is the face of a guy who has absolutely had enough of your shit.
It's a shame you're not a woman anymore. Because she'd have understood.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of things in this episode that women understand.
Was on a collision course, but look, at the last minute, it pulls up, then settles.
He was heading for a collision, and then he turned. It's amazing how impressed a woman can be when she works out the mechanics of parking.
That ship didn't crash. It parked.
It's a shame you're not a woman anymore. Because she'd have understood.
But we'll get back to that. The people with 50 IQ haven't stopped talking yet.
We've got all that power, but there is a way to get rid of it. Something a male-presenting Time Lord will never understand.
Why would the Doctor give up power? He's strong, masculine, intelligent, and has a duty to do good with it. He literally, without exaggeration, saves the universe from evil. And you're like, oh, why don't you give up that power and so that weaker people can come along and murder everybody? Are you insane, evil, or just stupid? I genuinely don't know. But despite the fact that this has got the showrunner and the Doctor back from 2005, we have to remember it's 2023 now, and you know what that means. This show is little more than a delivery system for the message. And that's not me saying that. That's the BBC's own review of the episode. Now, there's something glorious when their own company will go, yes, this is brainwashing, and we want you to know it. Now, but I have to say, I wasn't too surprised when Russell T Davies is the one that's making it. I had just hoped that he would have enough intelligence left in his tiny little mind to realise that if he wants a successful business, he shouldn't do it for the first 3 Tennant episodes and just bring it in with the next Doctor. Win the fans back, indoctrinate them later. That's the smart thing to do. But then again, this is the BBC. I've never accused them of being smart. No, instead, Russell T Davies has been very open about what he was always going to do. In fact, he was the one that first made me worried that Hollywood would catch on with his actual method, because he was interviewed about his approach to addressing social and political issues in his work. How Davies writes about things that interest and concern him, like the weather. And when he started writing Doctor Who in 2004, he was worried that children were always being told about death and destruction. He didn't want them walking to school thinking, oh my god, I'm going to die. But that was back in 2004. He doesn't care about that now. No, little kiddies, you should be terrified. That's obviously going to create great family entertainment for the BBC, because previously he wrote episodes about humans' resilience, how humans just pick themselves up after disasters and keep going, which is a great message because everyone is going to go through trials and tribulations, and so you don't just want to be told that you're going to give up and die and everything's hopeless. It's no matter what you face, you can get through it and be better because of it. That's why old entertainment used to be entertaining. It had messages and values that resonate with people on a base level, whereas now, be afraid. Be be very afraid.
You'd all love to see Christopher come back as the Doctor, right? See? Now, what would have to happen for that to become a reality?
Sack Russell T Davies, sack Jane Tranter, sack Phil Collinson, sack Julie Gardner, and I'll come back. So can you arrange that?
Did you find it hard to be like associated with the character given?
Not at all. I love being associated with the character. Just don't like being associated with those people and the politics that went on in the first series. The first series was a mess, and it wasn't to do with me or Billy. It was to do with the people who were supposed to make it, and it was a mess.
What is the balance of activating a force for change, but also trying to permeate that patriarchy, that power structure? And is that a part of the calculation of your art as well? And what's been the reaction to that?
Oh, absolutely. I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable.
You stupid fuck!
You're hit. You're bleeding, man. I ain't got time to bleed.
You know, I don't know if it's just like the last remaining feelings I have in my body for some of these older franchises that just, you know, when you grow up on something, right, you get an attachment to it. Like, especially if you're introduced to it early on. And as you grow up and you understand it more, you get a better understanding and, you know, of what it's about. And then you get to an age where all those things that you loved are just being destroyed one after another. Just systematic elimination. How can you not get pissed off? Right?
Because loyalty to the brand, loyalty is salvation, loyalty is life. Don't ask questions, just consume products. Get excited for the next product.
You know, having a loyalty to something it isn't a negative. It's just being able to disseminate and, you know, weave your way through the bullshit to find the good shit. You know, it's like you don't blindly believe something. You take what you hear, you do your own research, and then you formulate your own opinions. I mean, that's how everyone should operate. But it's like you said, ooh, let's consume product and get excited for next product. I mean, that whole statement is a meme at this point.
But it's fucking
so true. Yes, yes. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the War on Pop Culture. It's been a while. I think the last time we were here, we were discussing Scream and Melissa Barrera.
Yeah.
And Jenna Ortega. something we haven't heard about recently. Like, it's been pretty quiet, pretty hush-hush. Of course, back when that news came out, it was the talk of the town. It's like, oh, it's another Gina Carano situation, which it absolutely was, just, for a few different reasons. Still, though, it is what it is. It was what it was. But now here we are, a month or so later, and what have we got? Well, Doctor Who, Doctor Who was a corpse before they brought back David Tennant, and now there's not even a corpse left. There's just an ash pile.
So it's already been cremated, is what you're saying.
Yeah, there is no body. There's only cringe
or worms.
Cringe. But that's not the worst of it. Look, I love Doctor Who, right? I may have mentioned it a few times in past streams, but Doctor Who wasn't one of the franchises I grew up with as a kid. It's something that I found in the early 2010s. With that said, I stuck with it for a while. I loved that show. I loved the revival. Like, I never, and I know this is kind of like a sin for some Whovians. It's like, oh my God, how can you call yourself a Doctor Who fan and you haven't watched the original series? I know. With that said, I have a respect for that classic series, and I have a respect to a certain extent for what the revived series did, because Doctor Who wasn't popular in America until they revived the series in 2005. That's where it started getting a foothold in America, where people were introduced to David Tennant and Matt Smith. That's where the franchise really got a new fan base that was outside of the UK. And there was a reason for it. Yes, there were political messages in that show. Like, looking at it now, you'll be able to see that shit a mile away. With that said, despite seeing it and despite hating it when it came up, overall, the show was focused on entertaining people. Okay, and I could ignore the political bullshit because ultimately it didn't dominate the narrative. You still had the narrative focusing on the Doctor and the events that happened in the previous series, the classic series, with some of the references or returning villains. And then it started to go downhill. After Matt Smith left, they brought in Peter Capaldi. I love Peter Capaldi. He's a fantastic actor. With that said, he was not given good stuff to work with in Doctor Who. And by the time he left, that's where they started introducing more of the bullshit. And it got completely worse when they introduced the first female Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, or as Nerdrotic calls her, Dr. Nasty. Because she was. I literally watched one episode of the female Doctor. It was her first episode.
The Doctor that fell to Earth. Yeah, disgusting.
I was not impressed one fucking bit. I was disgusted. And I wasn't going in there ready to hate it, necessarily. It's just, I saw the trailers. I saw all the hype around it. It's like, oh my God, it's the first female Doctor, so progressive. And then, literally in one of the trailers, she breaks a glass ceiling and says, oops. Oh.
So stunning and so brave.
It's retarded. And yet somehow, some way, throughout that entire series that ran for, what was it? 2, 3, 4 years of her, it got worse. It got worse after her. They brought back David Tennant, which is arguably the most popular Doctor of the modern era. He's literally the Doctor that people think of when you say Doctor Who. It's like, oh yeah, David Tennant. He was that popular. So you would think to yourself, okay, you're going to bring back the guy who originally resurrected the show in Russell T Davies, and then you're going to bring back one of the most popular Doctors in David Tennant. You have a winning fucking formula. But they fuck it up. And this was after Disney purchased the BBC. So Doctor Who is owned by Disney. That's right. So don't blame Disney for this shit, because they were doing this shit before Disney even bought them. So credit where it's due. The BBC was full of shit before Disney purchased them. I guess birds of a feather flock together. You know what I mean?
Or turds of an asshole shit together, or swim together.
I mean,
yeah, but I prefer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but here we are again, where it's just Disney's got to fucking own everything, while still trying to preach the evils of capitalism. We're trying to incorporate how bad capitalism is in really not so subtle ways in their fucking movies.
Dude,
I mean, think about it.
I'm serious.
Think about denial of density there. It's called capitalism. Shut the fuck up, Phoebe.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just can't wrap my head around that Disney is spewing shit like capitalism. You know which people said capitalism is evil? You know who said that? Guess which party? The Communist Party.
Yeah, but they're open about this shit, don't you know?
Yeah,
they're socialists. They love their socialism,
dude,
which leads to communism. They're open about this shit. They're not hiding it.
Dude, why?
I mean,
nobody
look,
doing?
Hold on a second. Look, listen.
They're still being
this.
hypocritical about it.
Look, they're open about a lot of stuff now these days. These days, a lot of shit is coming out, and yet it's not making people furious enough to start dragging people out of their homes and, doing what needs to be done. Because when we're having discussions about drag kids,
fuck that,
or transgender kids, and people were like, "Oh, just yet another social issue." Like, we're so casual about that.
Social issue.
Instead of saying, "Excuse me, grab the fucking pitchforks, honey, grab the shotgun," right? You know what I mean?
We're too fucking comfortable. Like, that's the problem. We're not fighting the big fights that our ancestors fought. We're not building. We're not innovating as much as maybe they did. I mean, you could say, "Oh, but technology." No. Fuck technology for a minute. You did not build the house that you live in. You did not bring it all together. You didn't do it. Someone else did it for you. You're just taking what others had already achieved, and you're just living off of it now. I mean, now, no, that is not some sort of subtext about, European settlers. That's not what I'm going for here, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not that stupid. But the point is, like, generations have just gotten progressively weaker. I mean, I'd say it boomed, not with the boomer generation, because they have their problems as well. But I say Gen X, like they had it the best. I'm sorry. Like, everything was already set in stone. They lived comfortably, but they weren't overly sensitive to everything. Yeah. I have my issue with the boomer generation as well. I mean, like, I pointed this out many times. Like, it's an interesting shift where, like, you can still see your boomers out there who still go like, damn kids and their skateboards and shit. It's like, where we are now, I'm happy to see kids out on their skateboards because they're outside. They're playing outside. And then, but if I see them pull out the glowing rectangle, then it's like, okay, put the fucking thing away. Live in the damn moment, will you? You don't have to share everything you're doing on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or Brand X.
Yeah, that's fucking stupid. Like,
it's tragic, really. I mean, our culture is diminished so much. Yeah, I was having a little discussion with one of my coworkers, and I usually have a back and forth with her about music because she loves her country music, and I just can't stand country music. Like, I'm a Southerner, but I can't stand country music. And I say, I always tell her that 80s music is like among the best. Like, the 80s is arguably the most popular decade of pop culture ever.
Hmm.
And
Oh,
that it's
it
better than country music. But she tries to fight me, saying, no, it's not. That country music is better than 80s rock, which is what I play. I'm like, she's like, oh, I can tell you that because I lived in the 80s, and I'm telling you that the country music is better. It's like,
Ooh.
no, 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 no.
I lived in the fucking 90s, and I could tell you not everything was great. I mean, a good chunk of it was, but we were so carefree back then. We weren't overly sensitive. We didn't know too much about everyone. We didn't need to know everything about celebrities. Just saying, like, when we connected with each other, it was all in person, and if it was through a computer, it was just the most basic email chat room you could find. And don't forget, you had to listen to that.
Modem. Yeah, fucking modem.
Yeah. But, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I gotta bring up the whole music thing. I mean, like, I admit, I don't mind country music, but I grew up on a fucking farm, so I've just been so tolerant about it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a few songs out there that I genuinely really like. But 80s music, I don't care. Like, even when it comes to the 80s decade, when it comes to music, genre really doesn't really mean much to me because there's so many slappers, bangers, or whatever you want to say, across every genre from the 80s. Like rock, metal, pop. Like, for fuck's sakes, the 80s gave us the king of pop.
Michael Jackson, fuck yeah.
Like, just think about it. And Motley Crue. And now I'll admit, even when it came to music, as great as the 80s were, it didn't start off so great. I'm not gonna lie. It didn't start off that great because when the 70s were coming to an end, things just kind of went like that. Like John Bonham, he died. Bon Scott died. Kiss went disco. The Beatles died in the 70s, early 70s. But John Lennon died in the 80s, so there's that.
Yeah.
And
One was shot, one died of cancer.
He died in 2001, though.
Yeah.
So that doesn't count. Anyway. But, like, it just seemed like, is rock and roll, like, hitting a low point here? And I think this was also when Ozzy left Sabbath. So it's like, what is going on here? No Ace Frehley, no Peter Criss and Kiss. Like, Bon Scott's dead. John Bomb's dead, and Zeppelin calls it quits. I mean, AC/DC, I mean, again, for AC/DC fans, this might shock you, but I almost prefer Brian Johnson over Bon Scott. Sorry. That might be sacrilege, but...
Yeah, I really don't know who they are, but I do like AC/DC.
The rise of pop rock. That's where it was. But pop rock's is so goddamn catchy, though. Like, the second you hear... before I came in here, my mother was watching a show, and I heard Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears.
Yes.
Who doesn't fucking love that song?
I love that song.
Who doesn't love Video Killed the Radio Star? Who doesn't love Hall & Oates? Who doesn't love Meatloaf?
Def Leppard? Any Def Leppard fans?
Same here. Just a reminder. Quick short story. We actually met
Filthy Dan. I'm sorry, Carter. Filthy Dan. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Hey, John Lennon gets shot. Wait, did that already happen?
Whoa. Hang on. Just wait till Sunday, okay? Wait till Sunday.
Preaching the sad state of rock in 1980, digging this.
Well, that's how it started, at least.
But you know what? I think it's interesting because you go through that sort of low point, right? And then
you rise above it.
Right. There's something good about that. Like, yeah, going through the tough times suck ass for obvious reasons. Though I like to use Batman as an example. We wouldn't have the Nolan trilogy if it wasn't for George Clooney and those fucking bat nipples.
That's true. Well, then again, I mean, yeah, it was an interesting slope. I mean, Batman Robin happens, and then, like I've said it before, I think I even said this in the dumpster episode. we got comic book movies that followed after, like Blade, X-Men, and Spider-Man, and they were all just like, okay, that's how you don't do it. We'll do it like this. And then when they all got their sequels and they were all successful, Nolan was just like, Batman deserves a do-over. Let's do it right.
Yeah.
And hell, maybe we wouldn't have gotten the MCU. We might not have gotten this plethora of comic book movies that were great for about a decade, or maybe 11 years. I'll say 11 years. Sure, there were still some good ones that came through after 2019, like the Batman, Spider-Man, No Way Home. I mean, those are the outliers for me.
Yeah.
But like 2008, 2019, that's the MCU. That's all I fucking need.
Yeah. Peter, what's going on, man? Wanted to apologize again for not making it, man. I owe you one. Also, I made love before Tears for Fears was on.
Hashtag facts. Okay, then.
Hey,
well,
I can't blame you for that.
My man.
Can't blame. But hey, you know what, Peter? I hope I hope that you get better. I know that you've been going through a lot of physical stuff. My heart goes out to you.
Yeah, prayers for you, man.
We appreciate you stopping by. Actually, you would have been able to contribute a lot to this conversation because you grew up in that time frame. We're young bucks. We're young bucks. I mean, I came in. I mean, look, I always tell this because people are surprised in my taste in music at work. Like, my goodness, you put on the 80s music? I'm like, fuck yeah, I did. Like, watch this now. You can thank multiple things. One, you can thank my dad. And that's the first one. He's the one that got me into most of the franchises I love. Also, you can thank Friday the 13th, the game. Because if it wasn't for Friday the 13th, the game, I wouldn't have gotten interested into Friday the 13th and horror in general, which also led to me looking at more 80s stuff, including 80s music.
Yeah.
It opened doors, okay? So my appreciation for 80s culture, I mean, it's like I was there to a certain extent.
Well, something else I've noticed when it comes to the whole decade thing is we always get to that one point where we're always wanting to go back a couple of decades. Like the late when we got to the 90s, we were getting stuff where it was about going back to the fucking 70s, like Dazed and Confused, made in the 90s, set in the 70s. Detroit Rock City, we'll be watching that on Saturday. Come hang out with us on Movie Misfits. Made in the 90s, goes back to the 70s. That 70s show, made in the late 90s, goes back to the 70s. And then they tried the 80s in the early 2000s, and it just didn't fucking work. And then the 2010s come around, and it's like, okay, the 80s, that's the hot thing. Like, that is what we're going to capitalize on. We're going to make stuff set in the 80s. We're going to go back to the 80s as much as we can. We're going to celebrate the fucking 80s.
Stranger Things.
It.
Yeah.
I mean, and why wouldn't we? Because, again, music may have went a nosedive, but we still got back up. We were still getting good shit throughout the 80s. I mean, again, I could have said Van Halen, but unpopular opinion. Again,
I like Van Halen.
I love Van Halen. But even in the 80s, I kind of dug those tunes a lot better. Like, I just love, Jump. I fucking love that song.
Yeah.
And Dreams, my favorite one of all time. I'm sure you can guess where I first heard that song.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie.
You're damn right. I will actually listen to that song while watching fireworks. It's pretty good.
Cool.
But
I mean,
and then there's the movies.
I'm sorry.
Now I'll let you go ahead. Actually, now you got me interested.
Just really quick, I like Def Leppard's Photograph. That's one of my favorite songs now. Like I started. You can thank Grand Theft Auto for this, by the way.
Not sponsored by Rockstar.
They in the game they have it's called Los Santos Rock Radio, and the host of it is literally Kenny Loggins. Like, he's hosting it. It's actually Kenny Loggins, and he's playing all these different songs and Starship, We Built This City, Def Leppard, Eye of the Tiger,
Carry On Wayward Son.
Carry On Wayward Son. Yeah, I mean, you can appreciate you can appreciate the fact that you have people or companies that are like, you know what, maybe we should go back to to better times, right? To appreciate what came before. And you know, to circle this back, I know we went on a tangent, but it is all relevant. To circle this back to Doctor Who, it's depressing in a way. It's upsetting and depressing because you see all these classic franchises that are going up in flames because the current license holders, they don't give a shit. Some do. To be fair, to sort of offer an olive branch, there are people that care. I'm not going to be blind to that. With that
we don't get
said,
enough of them though.
We don't. Like, there's more bullshit coming out than good shit. Like with Doctor Who, after they humiliate David Tennant, they introduce the new Doctor, played by Nkuti Gatwa. Now, this guy is not British. He's not British. And that's important because, you know what? Why have a British character played by an actual British person, right? Doesn't really make much sense. I know you're going to say, I know what you're going to say. You're like, oh, you know, it doesn't always have to happen like that. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, David Tennant, yeah, he's not exactly British. He's Scottish. But you know what? Having a certain demographic play a certain character that is primarily in a certain area of the world, you know, it kind of makes sense, right? Like, you're not going to get somebody that's from a rice farm in China to play an American soldier in the 1980s, are you? Like, this character,
Disney will try that.
Probably. You're telling me you're going to have a 80-year-old rice farmer play as John Rambo? You know what I mean? It's an exaggerated example, I know. It's just, my point is, there's a certain level of authenticity that comes with playing a certain role that you want to get a certain person for the job. And it's not the best person for the fucking job. It's the right person. You get the right person that can look and act the part.
But we don't want to do that. We want to just do what we can, all in the name of
the message.
I was going to say diversity, but
and inclusion.
And yeah, but overall, yeah, the message.
I mean, if you guys watch the intro, you can see how I compare scenes from the revived Doctor Who series, where you have an emotional moment with the character of the Doctor, and then you get the new Doctor, and he's wearing a kilt, which in and of itself isn't really a problem. It's just he's in a club dancing in a very sensual way. And I'm thinking to myself, this is supposed to be a 900-plus-year-old alien who travels through time and space in a police box, fighting aliens and monsters trying to save the universe, and has a level of guilt and regret because of actions he had to do in the past. But the creators of the show have made it clear, like they've actually said it, that, okay, this new Doctor, he's going to be dropping all that baggage. He's dropping all that baggage to be this new, fresh, hip, new Doctor. Here's the thing about the Doctor. His tragedy makes the character. Like, him caring for other people and doing what he does is because of his past. You learn from the past to forge a better future. But they keep on trying to push this message that you need to let the past die. Kill it if you have to. Kylo Ren literally says this shit, and it seems every fucking company is taking that message to heart. Let the past die. Kill it if you have to. Kiss my ass. We are preaching really our love for the 1980s because it is, from my perspective, the most popular decade of pop culture. Considering that everything that's coming afterwards can't stop referencing the 80s. So there's something about that time that clearly is important.
Hot Tub Time Machine, to give example?
Wait for this Sunday.
Yep. Oh, anyway, as I was saying though, before I was interrupted by,
I'm sorry.
not, but anyway. Speaking of Meatloaf, our buddy Decon actually bumped into him, and the guy was an asshole. Like, he was being a total dick. He was like, "Do you know who I am?" Like that. Like, it was like the way he said it though. It was like, "Do you know who I am?" Like, not like Clint Eastwood, but it was like more like a snob, like a stuck-up snob. Like, "Do you know who I am?" Mr. T-Con was about ready to knock the shit out of him because he was a total ass.
To put it simply, Meatloaf was not the most pleasant person when we sort of bumped into him while we were in line to meet Lance Henriksen for a photo op.
Yeah,
like Meatloaf was like, "Oh, you don't know who I am?" T-Con was like, "No, no."
Yeah,
yeah, it was funny.
Meatloaf was an asshat.
Interesting.
I don't want to shit too much on him because he's kind of dead now.
Yeah. Oh well.
That's okay.
I guess he won't mind. Rez, how about we watch the Star Wars Christmas special?
No.
Fuck off.
Do we need a reminder of what the fuck happened?
I almost died. I almost died as well.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did because I was wheezing.
Oh, boo hoo.
I almost died of wheezing
fucking who? You shut up. You shut up. You don't get to say anything about the pain you were in. You watched it. You were not drunk. I was the one who actually had to shut off my camera because I was a complete bag of shit. I actually threw up when I turned off. I was actually throwing up.
Ew. Too much info, dude.
Oh, but you're the one that's saying, "Oh, I almost died too."
Yeah, because you were making me laugh so hard, though. I was kind of hard to breathe, though.
Carter, would you like me to start making those jokes again just so you can start wheezing off the camera?
Don't you dare. Don't you fucking start, motherfucker. Don't you dare.
Itchy!
Stop it, Danner. No.
Itchy!
I'd rather
the
die
fucking
of...
Wookiee!
I would rather die of laughter than alcohol poisoning. Let me just put it that way.
I mean, at least you go out like a Joker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the '80s, Jack Nicholson, right?
Stop it, you son of a bitch.
You know, I bet that Jack Nicholson's Joker would laugh at Itchy too.
But okay, we're still stuck in the '80s here. But let me tell you something. Like being a kid in the early mid '90s, like when we were renting movies. If anyone remembers renting movies, good times.
God, man.
Good times to be had by all. But a lot of the times, the movies that I kept getting exposed to at such a young age, they were like 80s classics. Like, where the fuck do I begin with 80s classic movies that might still be, they'll be what they are. Whatever we have in the past, we will always preserve them as historical. And we'll love them forever. Even if they end up getting bastardized by the modern Hollywood. I mean, I'd rather it didn't, obviously, but we'll always have those. But that's just something to appreciate, that when you're exposed to it at such a young age, you are being exposed to some of the greatest work of art ever put to your fucking TV. Like, the movies I got exposed to from the 80s, just to name a few, like fucking Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, Adventures in Babysitting, and so much more.
Yeah, it's just it's
Predator,
Breakfast Club,
What'd you say?
Friday the 13th. Oh, what
okay.
me?
Oh, yeah. What'd you say?
I said Breakfast Club.
Yeah, anything from John Hughes, really. Ferris Bueller, Fry.
Can we go back when Halo and the Xbox 360 was king? I don't know what you're talking about. PS3? PS3?
Whoa. Oh wow, God, no. This time I'm going to the Xbox. Sorry. Do you remember that video where like there was that guy wearing a box dressed like a PS3? Like, well, there was a crowd of people waiting to buy their Xbox 360. And the crowd was like booing him, and then a van pulls up, and someone jumps out, and he's dressed like an Xbox 360, and they're just starts pounding on this PS3 and takes him into the van.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
No, sorry, I must have missed 60 minutes.
Wow.
Wow.
But
Wow.
no. Rez is right. That was like, I'm sorry. Like PS3 is cool and all, but I was more of a 360 guy. I'm sorry, but
Don't even get me started on the
Well,
Red Ring of
I
Death.
think I can settle the argument here.
Red
Whether
Ring of
you
Death
think
sucked.
whatever you think of PlayStation or Xbox, PC, almighty PC is king.
Yeah, except
Checkmate.
PC players have no friends.
Gotcha, bitch.
PC, PlayStation, Xbox, it's all the same thing. Best one cooked well.
Yeah.
We're all about the games. I mean, when it comes to like console wars, I just like to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never really cared. I mean, for me, I just grew up with PlayStation. It was just kind of like, It's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I mean, that's the thing. I've been all over the place when it came to consoles, from Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe this is just something else where I just say that we're kind of taking steps back. This might seem like an odd thing to complain about, but what happened to the art of the startup screen?
Oh,
That's
my
what I
God.
like to know. Like, you have got to admit, PlayStation has this kind of...
Yeah, PlayStation 2 was the pinnacle of startup screens.
Dude,
I'll admit that. I mean, I still think the first one is still the superior. That it just gives you chills. But I agree, the PS2 one was so great. And then when you get that, I love that.
2.
But to the PS5's credit, they actually do add that little noise when you get to the home screen. That did put a big smile on my face. Just like, I love that sound. They honed in on the nostalgia. I got to give them that. But
yeah.
But even though they just kind of taken a couple steps down, Xbox just went with the startup screens. Like, nothing's going to beat that original Xbox startup screen with the nuclear Barracuda. Like,
you know what?
It sucked you in. It, like, quite literally, as it was in that Angry Video Game Nerd game, it literally grabbed you by your balls and just pulled you in.
You know what? I'll give Xbox credit where PlayStation keeps messing up. Backwards compatibility. Like, PlayStation can't get its shit together when it comes to games. Like, being able to play Xbox 360 games on the Xbox One. Meanwhile, PlayStation 4 is like, oh, sorry, we can't play PS3 games on the PlayStation 4. It's too new of a console for older games.
That's bullshit.
But then, of course, they introduced their digital library, which I see as a kind of like cop-out, because it's like, dude, I want to play the PS3 games I still have in my drawers. I can pop it in right now.
I don't think Xbox One honed in on that very well either.
Well, it did better than PlayStation.
Yeah, but with PlayStation 4, you know how you can lend your game on the PlayStation 4? Simple. Here you go. Like, remember when the Xbox One was revealed? All they revealed was restrictions and TV apps. And honestly, that reveal alone is enough for that nerd clip. You know which one I'm talking about. Just... yeah, that one.
Hey, fake it.
That,
yeah, you know what? Yeah, fair enough.
Sums it up perfectly. And then Xbox Series X and PS5, 5 all the way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. When it comes to modern consoles, the PS5 is just too goddamn sexy.
An Asian century.
What?
Because I mentioned a rice farmer playing Rambo.
Oh.
Bro, I don't care about Doctor Who, but like Echo, it's checkboxes before story and character development.
Bullshit.
That's modern entertainment right there.
Excuse me. I know that Doctor Who isn't exactly as popular in the US as in the UK, but respect to the fact that a fucking 60-plus-year-old franchise is getting shit on like every other franchise we know. But don't worry, we'll talk a little bit about Echo. I didn't watch it, but I watched somebody else talk about it, and specifically interviews with like Vincent D'Onofrio, where he's like, Vincent D'Onofrio is like, oh yeah, you know, as an actor, I have to service the story, and I have to bring this emotion to the character. Now,
Kingpin?
No, but think about that though. He has to bring the emotion to the character because it's not fucking there. Oh, on top of the fact that they marketed Echo like they've marketed so many other things, like diversity, inclusion, Native American representation, deaf representation, sign language. Now look, I don't mind sign language. Like I literally started watching the Matt Reeves Planet of the Apes trilogy. I love it. I love it. I like the sign language with the apes. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So,
but
with that said,
it was in service of the story, not just like, oh, hey, look, representation.
Like literally, I watched an interview with one of the actresses, and the interviewer is literally spoon feeding topics to the actor. Like, oh, isn't it atrocious how people were saying, do we really need a Native American superhero? I really don't know who's actually saying that shit. Like
probably a dumbass Karen.
Karen, really? Oh my God, Karen, white person, go bad. Ooh, anybody can be a Karen, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
that's stupid. No, but seriously, Echo. The mere fact that they weren't showing the reviews, like you know how that shit usually goes, right? Like you had some people giving their thoughts on Twitter or whatever.
Grace Randolph.
What is that? What has she not said? Like I started watching her video on Godzilla Minus One, and I just kind of.
She did what? No. Oh,
yeah,
God.
We're going to talk about Godzilla Minus One too, because
fuck yeah,
you can't talk about it enough.
But I wanted to bring it up though, since you brought it up. I hear Vincent D'Onofrio sucks.
Yeah, I heard that as well, but I couldn't corroborate the story.
My mother could. She met him at the convention while I was meeting Robert Patrick, and apparently he sucked. Wasn't all that cool. Like he seemed like to be like the only one there who was just sort of like, this is just a gig for me, doesn't give a shit. Also, I know this, and here was the big red flag. I'll give you a hint. He was wearing it on his face. He was the only guest there doing that, by the way.
Ew.
You know what? His private pile makes more sense now.
Yeah. Honestly, when I saw him wearing that mask, I wanted to just run up to him and say, holy Jesus! What is that? What the fuck is that?
What is this private pile? A fucking face mask? What are you, a fucking surgeon?
Then again,
that's a good one.
Hey, that's good. But he was Thor.
And Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah, Adventures in Babysitting. Like, there's the girl there. She's a big Thor super fan. Long before the character was as popular as he was for a bit. But now,
you mean when he was Chris Hemsworth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
I never knew that.
She's a crazy Thor super fan, and when they meet a mechanic played by D'Onofrio, he's quite tall. He's got the long blonde hair, and he's got a hammer.
And he's coming down on a fucking what is that thing? It's like a pit. Goddamn, I can't. It's a thing that mechanics do for cars, though.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, she sees him and she bows down and takes her helmet off. Like she actually bows, like she's on Asgard. And then, for her services, she offers her helmet. And then he's just like, you can keep it. I've got one at home. So it's like, what if?
What if
he actually is Thor? Because now, this is something I heard from the reviewer Confused Reviews. He suggested, what if he is? Because there was a time where superheroes had really boring alter egos, long before I Am Iron Man. Long before that. So, maybe.
Like Clark Kent.
But that kind of gets ruined though by the fact that Vincent D'Onofrio is, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah, private pile.
Right? Did you love the pseudo porn VR headset that Grandpa got?
Why are you still talking about it?
That's because, again, Xbox 360 is the only thing keeping people going.
Oh, God
The
damn it.
360 library never existed. What the hell you care about backwards compatibility? Well,
I mean, the 360 did have some of the best Xbox games. I mean, Halo 3, you're right.
you know what? Knights of the Old Republic. Can't forget about that.
Yeah, but that was the original Xbox, but yeah.
Well, that's what I mean, though. Xbox in general. Because we
Yeah.
never got Knights of the Old Republic on PlayStation.
And
That
that's
irritated
where
the hell out of me, by the way.
Yeah, that is where I'm not jealous. Like, that's why I'm glad I had an Xbox, because that's the Old Republic. I mean, well, it's not my number one. It's still, I would still call it probably the best Star Wars game ever made. Like, that was the problem I had, like, when people were still just, salivating at everything Disney and Lucasfilm were producing. Like when Chris Stuckman did his review of Fallen Order, and now he's just suggesting, oh, well, this is actually the best Star Wars game now. Knights of the Old Republic has been, no, like, all of it. Fallen Order was a good game. Like, if I were to give it like a grade, hey Stuckman, I give it a B+ at best, because it's a fun enough game, but it has some really questionable controls, like the parry system, which drove me insane. You heard me lose my shit with that.
Don't get me started with those big ass frogs, though.
Let me tell you something about that game. Okay, you remember the big Inquisitor chick, the really big thing?
Yeah, the fifth sister, or whatever her name was.
On that boss fight, I died on that boss fight over 20 times.
Eesh. But you know what really got under my skin with that game? I was losing my fucking shit. These guys know. They know about this. We were on the same party. They heard me lose my shit when I narrowly escaped the fucking clutches of Darth Vader, and then it's over. Are you fucking kidding me? That's where it ends. I mean, sequel, sure, but Knights of the Old Republic, I mean, it had a sequel too, but a really great sequel, which I think some people overlook. But that was a great one and done game, which had so fucking much world building, so much character development. Like, just to get it all. Like, you don't care how many hours you put in that game. You want to get all of it. And you want to play the game twice, because light or dark, you gotta take both. You gotta try both.
Like,
or hell, even combat style, man. I mean, you want to go 2 lightsabers, 1 lightsaber, double saber? Come on. That game treated you. And fuck.
That's why I still got my PS2 Slim, only console I own now, to think of it. Hey, you know what? I
used to have a PS2.
I love that little PS2 Slim. I mean, Battlefront 2. Actually, both Battlefronts. Like, I love both of them. I know the original Battlefront, it was sort of light on content compared to Battlefront 2, though, okay, for those of you that have played it, don't tell me that you haven't tried to knock either Vader or Luke off of Bespin on the Bespin platforms. Like, you throw a thermal detonator, they blow up, and you can't kill them. They don't die. Unless you push them off the cliff.
You have to straight up force yeet them off.
Now, here's the funny thing. I used to do this a lot. So I named my profile Darth Vader. So when I went into the game and I killed Darth Vader, it says Darth Vader killed Darth Vader. I always got a good chuckle out of that.
Well, I mean, I was always going for Darth Revan. Again, I see the Old Republic right there. Just because, I mean, that's a fight I want to see.
Xbox privilege.
Oh my god, oh my god, don't even get me started on the PS2 Slim. My favorite games / my first game on there was Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup, Lego Indiana Jones, The Original Adventures. That's a good one. Fucking Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Not Grand Theft Auto 6, the OG Vice City.
Technically, Vice City would have been 4. If they actually cared about the titles.
Yeah, I just said GTA Vice City.
Don't watch it. Spare your time. Rez, don't tell me that you actually sat down and watched Echo.
Oh, God.
Why would you subject yourself to the bullshit? Look, I'm serious.
Well, Hey, if he's doing it to tell us so we don't have to, I give him credit for that. I mean, there are certain things that I'll watch so you don't have to. But you do it anyway.
True. I mean, look, one of our most watched videos on the channel, She-Hulk. Attorney at Stupidity. I watched one fucking episode. I made a 4-5 minute video on it saying, don't watch it because it's terrible and it will only get worse from here. Now, of course, the sort of sadomasochists of the world decided, I'm going to sit through it anyway. Worst mistake ever. Have a really unlikable protagonist, have legacy characters humiliated again, have shitty
But it's empowering.
villains. It's not empowering. They made Jennifer look like a fucking moron. Selfish, narcissistic bitch. And that's what she turned out to be. Okay, if you guys watch the intro, the YouTuber Despero, he has an entire playlist where he breaks down all episodes of She-Hulk. I sat down and I basically watched She-Hulk with him.
Ooh.
And I'm really glad I didn't sit down and watch anything else of it because it was that terrible. I mean, the trailers just showed it. You know, it's funny because we're talking about PS2, and that's what it looked like. She-Hulk looked like PS2 graphics. That's terrible. And it's almost an insult to the PS2 because it's like the graphics were that bad. It's like the PS2 graphics weren't bad by any means at that time. It's like, yeah,
good for the time.
Yeah,
dated now, but
right.
Tony Hawk's Underground Skate World. That's a good one.
I never played the skating games. I'm sorry.
I did play it at Walmart though. When they had good games.
Tony Hawk's Underground had Kiss, for God's sakes.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts.
Again, the Star Wars Christmas special is far more entertaining and memorable. My goodness, Rez, you are determined to end Danner's existence with that.
And mine as well.
I will find you, Rez, and I will give you a wet willy.
Yeah.
Force Unleashed clears, no question. I love Force Unleashed.
Great game, but it's not Knights of the Old Republic. Sorry.
Oh my god,
and
dude, video arcades.
It's not Jedi Outcast. Sorry.
I fucking miss that. Whenever I think of the 80s, I am thinking of the fucking arcades.
You could apply that to the 90s too. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
that's true.
True. Pinball, Pac-Man. This is
Pac-Man. You know what? Fuck it. Since we're on the topic of Star Wars, the Rey movie.
Oh God, no!
And I don't know if you can't see it, but I'm actually trying to get my lightsaber, like right now.
Are you trying to use the Force?
Yeah, trying to get my Luke saber, the green one.
Return of the Jedi.
Tony Hawk Underground 1 and 2.
Yep. That's a good one.
Okay. The Rey Palpatine movie. Yeah.
I just meant compared to Fallen Order and its sequel.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yep.
Jinx.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Rey movie. So, like with the Marvels, before it came out, everyone and their mother predicted the movie would flop, and it did. So let's apply that same logic and mindset to the Rey movie. If the sequel trilogy was already uninteresting and disgusting and vile and it should never exist, the Rey movie is like that, but on steroids. Because who asked for the Rey movie?
Nobody.
Because not even Disney was asking for it because they couldn't market the sequel trilogy characters at all. After the sequel trilogy concluded, how much content did you see of the sequel trilogy characters? Little to nothing. Because they came out with The Mandalorian. And The Mandalorian, at first, wasn't leading up to the sequel trilogy. There were no hints about it other than the remnants of the Empire, which you could do anything with that because you already had a sequel trilogy of sorts with the expanded universe material that came out before The Phantom Menace, where it continued the story where, yes, even in that story, the Emperor came back and they used clones. And if you thought it was stupid then, okay.
Just
fine.
remember 3 little words. Somehow, Palpatine returned.
In defense of the actual expanded universe sequels, they showed the clones. Like, they went into detail about how the Emperor did come back, that there was a, you could say, contingency plan, right?
But that's not the point, though. It's how it's presented.
Yes, yes.
3 words. Somehow Palpatine returned. They fucking show it in the trailer, which made a lot of people go, what? Just, why?
Ow, you're
and then
dead.
the opening crawl. Like, maybe if you wanted to surprise us, maybe don't blow your fucking load.
Too early.
No, just don't blow it at all.
Yeah.
They fucking blew it. They fucking blew it. They ejaculated all over our faces after they took our money. That's what they did.
Well, I mean, it's kind of our fault because let me put it to you this way: after The Last Jedi came out, if you were still giving Disney your money after Rian Johnson got on and said that you're racist and sexist, if you didn't like Rose Tico, or the people that didn't like Last Jedi are all just man babies, and you're still giving them your money after he goes out and says that,
it's our fault.
No.
I mean, I'm guilty of it. We went to go see Rise of Skywalker.
But you know what? You know what some of us, but not everyone, went and saw? Solo. And you know why? Because Solo lost money.
That's true. Of course,
and
it got worse. I mean, look, it got worse when they fired Gina Carano because it went to a whole new level. First, they were insulting fans for, not liking their bullshit. Then they fired someone wrongfully, and you just pissed off an entire extra legion of people. It's like, oh, really? So she says something you don't like, and you just can her for it? Okay.
Beep, bop, boop.
Beep, beep, boop, boop.
How embarrassing.
I know.
Like for Disney. I mean, to a certain extent, Gina Carano too, because they wanted her to get into a Zoom call with a bunch of LGBT representatives or whatever. And what? They're just going to berate her with bullshit? Like, I would say, you can go fuck yourself. Or I would say, okay, sure, I'll come on. And then I'll insult every single one of them and then leave. And say, here's my resignation, go fuck yourself. I mean, that's just me. Because at that point, if you're going to try and get me to apologize for...
Or just look at everything your way, because it's only your way. Your way is the only way to go. Your way is the right way. You reside in the center of the moral compass. I got to look at everything like you. You're so much better than me. Fuck off.
Me, I'd be like, no, I'm sorry. I'm not fucking apologizing. Your tears of bitchiness fill me up. Are delicious. Your cringe tears.
I wouldn't want to drink that shit. I don't know about you. I don't know where they've been, right? You know what I mean?
Fair point.
Maybe that's just me.
Oh, and don't even give me
my cycle.
Rez says, I feel bad for Daisy Ridley. I mean, homegirl can't turn it down. She needs a paycheck, and the one big gig she gets is the one with a character no one likes. You know what? I mean, considering that she starred in other movies after the sequel trilogy, but they've all essentially flopped. Like nobody's really even heard of it.
Ophelia.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's not Daisy Ridley's fault. And to her credit, before they decided to make her the queen of everything in The Force Awakens, her initial introduction in The Force Awakens was decent.
Mm-hmm.
She was a scavenger. She's not like Luke there because Luke isn't a scavenger. He's a farm kid. Very different. Similar enough, yes, though different in that she's a scavenger. She's by herself. She's living in a downed AT-AT. You could see the sort of wonder in her eyes. Then when she sees the old woman across from her scraping the shit off, and you could see in her eyes, like, there's some thematic elements that are good in her introduction. It's just when she meets Finn, it goes downhill. It fucking goes downhill. The sequel trilogy not only messes up the original trilogy characters, but it messes up their own new characters. They're not taking themselves seriously.
No.
And then they blame us for not liking it. It's the fans drove fucking Kelly Marie Tran and Daisy Ridley off the internet. I'm thinking to myself, what fans?
They're not fans.
Because
they're trolls.
They take people on the internet so serious that's like, oh my God, a few thousand people say go kill yourself on the internet. It's like, oh, that's the entire fan base. Like when people say, oh, Star Wars is the most toxic fan base.
No.
No.
Only,
What the fuck does that mean?
only if you give the wrong people the attention that they don't deserve. Now, even when you were talking about how they fuck up the characters, again, like with Finn, so much inconsistency right there. The guy who's fucking, like, with his introduction, which, just like Ray's, was very promising. Like, when he's seen the horror of wars and killing innocents and how he's just like, I don't want to do this. And he tries to get the hell out of there. But then next thing, when he's in the fucking TIE fighter with Poe, shoots a TIE fighter down. He's like, oh yeah, did you see that?
What happened to that sort of PTSD?
Yeah, like, which is it? Like, it just felt like they're, again, when they try and answer for, like, oh, look, we're answering the problems that you had with the prequels when you said that the characters just had no real distinguishable personalities. Well, here they are acting like comedians. Like, they're acting like us playing a video game right there. That's what it is. Now, I'll admit, you got a little bit of that even in the original trilogy, but it fit the character. Like, when Han shoots that TIE fighter during the turret scene, it's like, ha ha! And of course, I got him! Great kid, don't get cocky.
Yeah.
Like, but that was just great banter, and it made sense because none of these characters are, like, horrified by the horrors of war or anything like that.
Considering what they had just been through,
Yeah.
I can understand why. It's like they're lucky to be alive.
I mean, I could sort of maybe nitpick the fact that, you know, Luke, you're getting a little excited over shooting a fucking TIE fighter after you just mourned your mentor. But I get it. He knew the situation at hand. He knew now's not the time to mourn. We're not out of this yet. Help me out. And of course, once you get into it, maybe, I don't know, maybe you get the rush, but I just don't get it when you're trying to get away from these people who raised you, by the way, and you're like, I got to get out of this. This is not the life for me. It's too damn much. And, like, you fucking mourn for one of your fellow troopers, by the way. And then you are ordered to kill a bunch of innocent people. You don't do it, and your boss is just kind of, he's fucking looking at you. You shoot one down. Oh, yeah, you see that? That was so... Shut up. Like,
you're embarrassing yourself.
I mean, it's not like they weren't always just so in the prequels. I mean, for fuck's sakes, Anakin does the spinning trick, cause those missiles to collide. We got him, R2, even though he should have said, told you spinning was a good trick, didn't I? Like, seriously, he should have said that. That would have been great.
Yeah.
Meme-worthy remarks, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so look, the director, and Rez says it here too. We'll get into that. It's also be directed by a woman who has no experience in the field and is a checkbox warrior. Yeah, that's, I mean, the videos where she said that she's an accidental director or whatever, or accidental filmmaker, like she has her career in documentaries, and then she has 2 episodes of Miss Marvel under her belt for directing entertainment. And of course, her fucking comment. She likes to make men uncomfortable.
Why?
Flip the script and see how long that particular individual lasts before the media tears him apart.
Hashtag me too. That's what would happen. You know it. But
stupid.
But now, the Critical Drinker did point it out. She wasn't talking about Star Wars specifically, but still, if she's going to take that same mindset to Star Wars, like, that's what we're worried about. Like, if you're really going to just make the Star Wars fans uncomfortable, well, so I hate to break it to you, sister, but the Star Wars fans, they checked out. We checked out. Like, I don't care for a Rey Palpatine movie, and now something else has been resurfacing lately, like how even Daisy has been acting a bit hard on herself, which, again, you don't need to. Like, when she said how, when she saw The Force Awakens, she thought she was the worst thing to happen to Star Wars. Look, even then, you weren't quite there yet.
No, it was the mouse.
But, again, I must stress, it's not your fault that the character sucked. I mean, even her performance as an actress, she did okay. Like, she really did. Like, when she hit the right notes when she needed to, like when she had to be angry or sad and all that, she did pretty well. But the problem was the writing and just making her too OP.
Yeah.
Like, I said this before, but the mind trick. Where the fuck did you learn that?
Yeah.
Like, if she had just, like, her having a vision and that being how she taps into the Force, sure. Like, maybe if she just started to hone in on that and just use the Force and, like, one of her restraints got removed and she realized, oh my God, I just did that.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just, like, the first step. Like, using the ability to move something. And it's just one little thing. But she still manages to free herself. You could still have her free herself. I mean, I know it was all about empowerment, or maybe it was, I don't know. But just go for the fucking mind trick where, like, really, like, that's a pretty high skilled Jedi trick.
Something
that's
that takes training.
Oh yeah,
I'd say.
I mean, hey, for fuck's sakes, we got a scene where a Jedi Master does it, and it doesn't work. Like, I get it. Like, Watto's, like, his race apparently is impervious to the mind tricks. I know, but the point is, Qui-Gon's a master, and he actually tries it again. It's like, but credits will do fine. No, they won't. Credits will do fine. No, they won't. What do you think? You're some kind of Jedi doing your waving hand like that? Mind tricks don't work on me. Only money.
I mean, funny as it was, meme-worthy as it was, it showed that the Jedi aren't all powerful.
Mm.
Even someone that is trained in the Force with decades under their belt is not all powerful.
No.
And you point this stuff out, either the Disney Wars supporters are going to be like, we'll go one of two ways. One, they will understand what you're saying and maybe rethink their viewpoints. Or they will just say, oh, you're still a racist, sexist, blah, 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 whatever. You know, it's almost like, oh, is that like a straw man argument? It's not. You know why? Because when you go to some of these Star Wars forums, like I left a Star Wars Facebook group because literally people are posting the same bullshit of, oh, racist and sexist Star Wars fans drove Rose Tico off the internet and they drove Daisy Ridley off. And that was never actually confirmed, by the way. And even if it was, lumping in an entire group of people based on the actions of a few is retarded. It's stupid. It's unfair. It's unrealistic. And generally, you should avoid doing that because it makes you, the one doing the blaming, look like an ass. Because, yeah, at the end of the day, it isn't Daisy Ridley's fault that the character she plays is stupid by a fundamental standpoint, because it's ultimately up to the writers how the character is played out. The actor is just there to follow the script. They're the puppet.
Or here's a proverb: there is no such thing as a bad actor or bad character, just bad writing.
Oh, there is such thing as bad actors. They're out there.
Or there's. I'm just saying it's
no. I
understand it could go either which way though. I mean, sure, there are some asshole actors and actresses, but yeah, like it's just bad writing and bad or portrayals of it.
It's the agendas that are in the minds of the writers and producers,
which
those
really,
that are
really
pulling the
suck.
strings is my point. Those that are pulling the strings are the ones. If you want to point blame, that's it. You have people in Hollywood that are there to push agendas, whatever they may be. And then you have the actors that either agree with it or maybe they don't agree with it. With that said, they can't say anything because if they say something, they lose their job. And it may not even be just the actors, too. It could be the sound designer. It could be one of the lower. I don't want to say that in a demeaning way, but
like costume set designers, shit like that.
Yes,
even the fucking coffee runners.
Yeah, people that aren't famous. That if they were to speak out, they'd lose their jobs. That's their livelihood, so they can't speak out. I think that was somebody said it. I think it was Gina Carano that said it, where she said that essentially there were people that went up to her, I believe after she got fired or beforehand, that they were like, yeah, we agree with you. We can't speak out because we'd be screwed. But you know what? At this point, It's something that Eric July said last year, I think. He was talking about that at this point, with everything that's going on, you not speaking out, it's a problem. Because if you continue toting the line, like you won't cross that threshold, you're perpetuating the problem. Okay, because at this point, with all the alternatives that are starting to crop up, now is the time to get the fuck out of the sinking ship that is Hollywood. And I know it's like, oh, it's easy for you to say you're not in the industry. I know I'm not in the industry. It's just, look at it from this perspective. If you don't leave now in a time where, believe it or not, it's actually fertile, because we're seeing Hollywood productions that are costing millions of dollars fail.
Taxpayers' dollars.
They're failing. Meanwhile,
it's like Chris Gore
another-
said. It's like Chris Gore said that turning Star Wars into a girl brand is going to be the most costly decision ever made.
The funny thing is, I mean, can you even really call it a girl brand? Because what is it doing?
Well,
Like,
they tried and they failed.
I mean, it's like, okay, you give a female protagonist. Is that all that it takes to be a girl brand? Like, obviously, when we say girl brand, they're marketing like, oh, strong female lead, strong independent woman, strong female, blah, 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 blah. Right? I mean, that's what, I guess, that's a girl brand. It's like, well, what about Aliens? Right? What about Terminator, Sarah Connor? I mean, people continue to, like, people say, oh, you keep pointing out to those characters only. It's like, well, they're the best examples.
Well, they're the best examples. They're the best examples. So this motherfucker is not. Like there are some good female character representations out there. Then there are just the just go.
I mean, Ghostbusters 2016 is like the pinnacle of bullshit, or at least I thought it was, because it actually got worse.
It's a fucking SNL sketch. I'm just waiting for one of them to say, live from New York, it's Saturday Night Live. That's what I'm fucking waiting for.
It opened the door for more bullshit. Well, technically Force Awakens came out first. It's just Force Awakens wasn't as egregious, at least in your face about it, compared to like Last Jedi or Ghostbusters 2016. It's when they were testing the waters to see what they could get away with at the time. And of course, everybody ate up Force Awakens. So it's like, okay, well, let's continue. Of course, Ghostbusters 2016, I mean, I don't know how it did, like, box office-wise. I don't know how successful it was. But, I mean, clearly it wasn't successful enough for them to make a sequel. So, I mean, there is that. But, with a billion-dollar brand like Star Wars, how can you not do The Last Jedi? Well, it's simple. You don't do The Last Jedi. You don't give the keys to someone who most likely hates the character of Luke Skywalker, and that's why he violated the character in his own movie. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think that's what happened. That Rian Johnson had a thing against Luke Skywalker, and he's like, this is the perfect opportunity to fuck up the character. And Disney's like, yeah, sure. If you're going to make a straight white man look like an idiot, go right ahead.
Weak old fool who just wants to die.
No matter which way you look at it, you can never convince me that what we got in The Last Jedi was a realistic or an acceptable path for Luke to go down.
No, not
you
at
can't.
all.
There's no way in hell that you can say that that was a reasonable thing to do. I don't care how realistic it could be that, everybody goes into a dark mindset. It's like, okay, that doesn't mean you have to do it for every fucking character in fiction. You don't have to make him a sad, depressed old fool.
No.
You don't. You could let him be how he was. Have him with his Jedi Order. Going down a rabbit hole. My point is, Hollywood has this thing against straight white males. Well, we can't have strong male leads, which is why you have movies that will either humiliate those types of characters or just won't have them. Like, let me think. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness had Doctor Strange, but I mean, who was the real hero there? America Chavez. Who the fuck is America Chavez? Like they keep coming out with all these different Marvel characters from the comics. I'm like, who the fuck are these characters? I mean, a lot of them are newer. Like they're like Miss Marvel. You know, it's funny. I'm going to a bit of a tangent, but at work, one of my coworkers is like, "Oh yeah, I love how they didn't just recast T'Challa and they made his sister the new Black Panther." And I'm like, "Oh yeah," but in my mind, I'm like, what? Why? I didn't watch it. I didn't watch Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and I'm not going to.
Me neither.
I just don't care for it, but based on what I've heard from people I trust, it's a shit show, like every other Marvel project is post Endgame. I mean, I think I have Loki getting kicked in the balls thousands of times ingrained in my brain because I sat through that series because I was looking forward to it. I was looking forward to Loki. Big mistake.
Oh. I was trying to say something smart though. This whole bullshit thing about Disney, about their public domain about fucking Steamboat Mickey and Minnie. I mean, what does that have to do with anything?
I don't know, Carter. What does that have to do with anything?
The answer? Nothing. I don't know either.
You just kind of mentioned it.
I don't know.
I mean, if you want to complain about the fact that they're already coming out with a horror movie about it, like the Winnie the Pooh or the Grinch, it's like,
oh god,
it's a stupid fucking gimmick.
Yeah,
like, it's horror now.
Like,
nobody's liking it. Okay, nobody's liking it.
I'm sorry.
Nobody
I think
cares
I'm just
about
running
that
on
shit.
fumes.
I understand.
I'm just trying to find something that says, "Oh God,
Godzilla Minus One."
Yes, thank you.
There we go.
There we go.
You know why? You know why Godzilla Minus One? Because the Marvels comes out, or even Ant-Man and the Wasp spending over $300 million plus on CGI, and it looks like shit. Then you have Godzilla Minus One with a budget of less than 15 million, and it's as a Godzilla fan, it's wonderful to see general audiences liking the brand. Like they look at Godzilla Minus One, it's like, oh my god, this is a really good movie. So I'm looking forward to the future with that. I'm also looking forward to the Monster versus Godzilla X Kong. No, it's not going to be like Minus One. Probably not going to be as successful. With that said, I hope that those that are doing the Monsterverse take some notes from Minus One so that they can continue with the story that they're telling in the Monsterverse, but make some adjustments to help make it less like Marvel, like people are comparing it to Marvel and Marvel humor, and make it have a balance. Have a balance of that cheesy, campy fights and shit like Godzilla is known for, and also have the emotion, have the characters that we can get invested in. I think that what Godzilla X Kong has really going for it is Kong himself. Because if you follow, despite the cheesiness and the craziness of Kong Skull Island, there is a story there with Kong. You can see this sort of emotional story that's there. There's fertile ground for it, where Kong is the last of his kind, and he's protecting the Iwi people on Skull Island from the Skull Crawlers. And then in Godzilla versus Kong, you have the little girl. I can't remember her name, but she's the last. She's the last of her people, and Kong is sort of like he's trying to protect her, and there's a sort of connection there where they're both the last of their kind. There's good story to be told there. It's just they have to find a way to incorporate it in a reasonable way, a way that can work. And it's not an issue of, oh, well, you can't make a animal type character sympathetic. It's like the Planet of the Apes trilogy.
Hello.
That's like the best example of it. That's the best example. Take some of those elements from the Planet of the Apes trilogy and apply that to, Godzilla and the MonsterVerse, it's there. It's there. It's just you gotta work it out. You gotta take some time to flesh out the story. Look, this is me talking as a Godzilla fan and as someone who appreciates both aspects of the franchise, the cheesy nature and the more serious nature, especially with Minus One and what it brought to the table. So one way or another, the mere fact that Godzilla Minus One being such a small film and a foreign film on top of that, because look, it's not every day that a foreign film like Godzilla is able to not only come over to the States in theaters, but to actually perform well to the point where they're going to be re-releasing the film in theaters as a black and white version. That's a thing.
I would like to see that.
I'm so excited. I really want to get the Blu-ray whenever that comes out, because that, especially with the fact that Best Buy is cutting off their physical media.
Oh, God.
It's like, give me my Minus One Blu-ray right now. Give it.
Yeah.
But look, this is something I do want to talk about with Godzilla in comparison to Doctor Who. So both Godzilla and Doctor Who, old franchises from the 50s/60s. You see how in Godzilla Minus One, it respects the lore of the franchise by giving us a sort of retelling of the original film with some elements of other films in the franchise. And it gives us sympathetic characters that we can relate to as an audience. And it didn't preach to us any kind of bullshit messages. And it also managed to be a good film. Best of both worlds. Meanwhile, you have Doctor Who, another franchise with a long legacy, that takes a shit on its main character and, throws shit at the audience. Like, to the point where Russell T Davies, the showrunner, the guy responsible for bringing the franchise back to life in 2005, has literally gone on Twitter and gone full Ryan Johnson, where people are talking about some stupidity that's going on in the series, and he essentially acts like a child, saying, tough. Literally, tough. You call out some bullshit with what happened to one of the main villains, a popular villain in Davros. And for those who watch Doctor Who, you know what I'm talking about. But and what they did with that character, and someone on Twitter was like, well, this is kind of stupid, essentially. Like, why would you? Because Russell T Davies in an interview was talking about, a lot of us on the production team had a problem with how the character is being portrayed as a disabled person that's evil.
He was supposed to be like that in the fucking 70s, in the Fourth Doctor area, you stupid fuck.
But think about that. His mindset is, we don't want to portray disabled people as evil.
Really?
It's always about that. See, that's what I hate, is when they always worry about how they're portraying certain demographics in fiction. Like, why does it matter if that demographic finds it offensive? It's usually not even that demographic. It's usually someone just doing it for them. Why worry about that shit? It's not problematic to portray them as such. It's just a fucking fictional story. Do what you want with it. But don't bow down to those who are just going to cry over everything because everything is problematic, yada, yada, yada. Don't give in to the crybaby mob.
Oh, and kudos to fucking Christopher Eccleston, the Ninth Doctor, who was the showrunner for one season of 2005.
He wasn't. Christopher Eccleston was not the showrunner. The showrunner is the person who helms the project.
Or
Christopher Eccleston was the Doctor.
For one season.
For one season, yes. The guy in the intro that said, sack Russell T Davies and I'll come back. Yeah. Because, but honestly, though, take Doctor Who out of Disney's grubby hands. Because, yeah, they started doing this shit before Disney bought them out. With that said, it's not going to help that it's under Disney. Okay, so take it out of Disney's hands. Bring Christopher Eccleston back. I'd be down for it. He was a good Doctor. He had one season, sure, but he was a good Doctor. And the fact that, I mean, look, there was a lot of drama that was going on in 2005, as he hinted to in our intro. There was a lot going on, and it's one of the reasons why he left after one season, because they had just brought the series back and they're already recasting the Doctor. Very, very strange, but now we know it had to do with some of the political bullshit, not like politics, like, oh, left versus right. No, it was human relations. It was how they were handling certain aspects of the series. I don't have all the details, but all that I do know is that Eccleston was tired of it and he left. And I can't blame him. And that was going on back in 2005. That's the thing. This shit was going on way back when, too. It's just now they're more ballsy about it because, well, the enemy demographic, the straight white male, or just being white in general, it's trendy right now to criticize the fuck out of it. And I'm just waiting for that pendulum to start swinging back the other way. But what I'm worried about is that it's going to swing too far back. To where we go to hardcore right stuff like, oh, video games cause gun violence. Oh, we can't have this certain aspect in movies anymore because that's
just shit like that. But
you get what I'm trying to say. It's the complete opposite of what's happening now, or it's the exact same thing, but it's in a different coat of paint. That's what I want to avoid. That, okay, let's bring it back to the middle, where it's like, okay, there are certain things we shouldn't do because it wouldn't be right to do so. At the same time, we should have a certain amount of freedom to do certain things without being criticized. Oh, you can't have that in a movie. How dare you? You know, I think that Godzilla Minus One is a really good example of balance, where you get to have a movie that portrays a very sensitive time period. Like, certain people might get hot and bothered, like, you know, whether you're American or Japanese, doesn't matter. It's a bad time. Though they found a way to tell a good story, and they brought in a classic monster, and it all melded together in such a fantastic way.
Exactly.
And it was able to finish off 2023 with a bang for me, anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, especially
more like
after
a thunderous roar.
Or a build up atomic breath.
And then the Marvel is just. But I'm curious as to what 2024 is going to bring us. It's January. It's very early on. I mean,
yeah.
The only things I support are foreign films and fan films. That's my new policy.
You support. That's all you support.
Anybody that
foreign films and fan films.
Let me wait. Strike that. Reverse it. I prefer good movies that doesn't have any bullshit politics in it, no agendas, none of that. Good story, good characters, good writing. That's what I want. That's what I fucking want. I don't want your fucking agendas in there. I don't want you talking about racism, or like the bullshit about Black Lives Matter. I don't want any of that shit. Why do you think I go to a theater to watch a movie? So I can escape the bullshit of what's going on. And now I can't escape it without that piece of shit following me around like a fucking deranged psycho ex-girlfriend. Like, come on, man. No wonder why.
Come on, man.
Like, Jesus. Dude.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. But in all fairness, I think Godzilla Minus One did a better job than what this year's fucking movies did.
Oh, 100%. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I am. Look, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited to see a lot of these franchises go up in flames. Like, for Doctor Who, I'm waiting to see what bullshit they're going to put out, because when it fails, it's going to be glorious. It's one of those moments where you just sit back and you're just eating your popcorn, just watching the shit show happen. It's
or
like,
just watching from a hilltop with binoculars.
The people who love these franchises, they're gone. The ratings for each episode, when they brought back David Tennant, it's been declining. Like, when he first came back, there was a nice little sharp uptick. Then that first episode happened where the Doctor was talking about pronouns.
Like, dude, what the fuck?
And then episode after that, just lower. And it's not going to get any better with Nikuti Gatwa.
And don't even get me started on his fucking sonic screwdriver.
Just hold on. Here's the thing about Gatwa here. He has been very open about his sexuality. They've made the Doctor gay, basically.
Retcon.
Like to the point where it's like, yeah, I had a steamy hot summer with Harry Houdini.
What?
That was a line. Yeah. Remember, the Doctor's a time traveler, so he can meet anybody he wants. But he said
That's
he had
just
a
a
hot
weird
summer
line.
with Houdini.
What?
Context: the Doctor and this chick. They were in a trap, and the Doctor got free. And he's like, "Yeah, I had a hot summer with Houdini."
The escape artist? Wow.
I mean, Nikuti Gatwa is gay. Russell T Davies is gay. So they just wanted to inject lots of gayness into Doctor Who.
Just stop.
Just ignoring the fact that the Doctor had a wife.
Named River Song?
Look, they've retconned and ruined so much of the lore. It's disgusting. Like, it's Star Wars levels of bad. And in some aspects, it's worse. But at this point, I just don't care. Because at the end of the day, I can still enjoy aspects of these franchises that they've destroyed. I can still go back to the stuff that I liked before, the stuff that got me hooked. I can still enjoy that stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I just have to put out of my mind that the rest of this shit exists. It's difficult. It's frustrating. It's like seeing your ex with somebody else. You know, it's like it's kind of painful, but it's like, well, what the fuck am I going to do? I got to move on.
Yeah.
With that said, it's hard though, because if the ex keeps on bugging you about the fact that they have someone new, it's like, can you shut the fuck up and leave me alone?
Bye,
Go
Felicia.
away. Go.
Bye, Felicia.
That's what it feels like. Weird analogy, weird comparison, but I think you guys can understand what I'm trying to say. It's just
trying to rub it in your face.
Support alternatives. Support good alternatives. Don't just support alternatives because they're alternatives. We need to have something that's not filled with identity politics bullshit and something that's good. Because if you're just supporting something that's not Hollywood just because it's not them, we can't live with that. Okay? It has to be something good.
Fan films.
Once again, go see Godzilla Minus One. It's a foreign film. It doesn't have identity politics bullshit in it, and it's a good story. Go buy it on Blu-ray. Yes, Roseblood. Shout out to Peter Anthony.
Shout out to him.
Film. It's just...
Yeah.
That's where we are. When we talk about this stuff on War and Pop Culture, if we repeat ourselves, just think about it like this. We're being consistent with our viewpoints. Bear with us, because being fans of these long-running franchises and seeing it just go up in flames, it's frustrating. But it also shows our love for these franchises and why we go back to the older stuff, right? Because the older stuff was entertaining. It was good. It was well made. It was well received. That's why it's lasted this long. So go support the old stuff. Literally, find DVDs, find VHS tapes. If you can get your hands on old stuff, do it.
You better get it though.
Like Danner.
You're preserving history.
You had that nice Batman box set. I appreciate that.
I do have although I do have a few VHSs under the bed though.
Yeah. But
like classic VHSs.
He said, Danner, that we're preserving history, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's true. Like, that's... I have an entire collection of Star Wars figures from the 90s, early 2000s. Like, the golden age of Star Wars. Like, shortly before, and after Revenge of the Sith came out, where they had a bunch of Star Wars toys. You know, that was the shit. Those were the good times. Those were the good times before Disney took over and started making cheap figures and cheap shit in general. But, you know, there you go.
Yeah.
Rez, I'm sorry. You had been putting out a few comments I wasn't even looking at. I'm sorry. How I always would make it is have Rey be the rogue and Finn be the Jedi. He breaks control at the death of his only real friend, have it be like they were still drone-like, but not completely hollow. Like his friend dies, and he has a sudden burst of rage and force crushes everything around him, then passes out. He wakes up in an interrogation room and be questioned by Kylo's knights. Yeah? No, support the hive mind, eat your bugs, and allow double standards. Oh, yeah, and watch the holiday special, right?
Oh, my God, no. Don't give him ideas.
But, yeah, there you go, guys. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. It's been an interesting battle tonight. Once again, shout out to Peter Anthony. Sorry he couldn't be here, but you are in our thoughts and prayers. Get better, get stronger, man. We appreciate you stopping by. Filthy Dan, we appreciate you stopping by. Rez, thank you once again for being consistent and giving Danner PTSD of the Star Wars Holiday Special. Always a good time. Unless it's not a good time in Danner's case.
Not quite.
Now that's how we clockwork orange everyone with a Star Wars.
No,
Can't let it go.
No, stop it.
Nope.
Stop
Apparently
it.
not.
But of course, if we're gonna really clockwork special something, itchy. With that being said, thank you to everyone that stopped by. As I already said, I don't know why I said that again. Thank you to everyone who stopped by. Thank you for watching, listening, and supporting. A special shout out to our Patreon supporters. Their names will be at the end credits. And with that all being said, remember to have hope. Because no matter how much bullshit comes out, and if Godzilla Minus One is any example to go by, the entertainment is out there.
I'm Special Agent Spooky Clutter.
I'm Special Agent Carter Sauce.
Special Agent Dr. Richtofen. And until next time, fellow investigators, remember.
The entertainment.
The entertainment.
The entertainment is out there.